A house like this is the type of thing that could cause you to go bankrupt. And now I'm going to look at the different options I have, but as an investor, you either have dealt with an issue like this or you will deal with an issue like this. Here's the issue is we set up our projects into 6 different checkpoints, and the first 2 checkpoints are where all of the potential problems really come into play. So in checkpoint 1, we're really focused on getting things back to a blank slate. And this is where we would do any structural repairs. We might put a new roof on, make sure that all the framing was done, all the demo, of course, and the clean out. And then our next checkpoint is where we do the mechanical, electrical, plumbing rough ends. And we get through all the city inspections. We actually call that checkpoint the gauntlet for good reason. And we have gotten through all of those checkpoints, checkpoint 1 and checkpoint 2. The issue is that we budgeted around $38,000 for checkpoint 1 and checkpoint 2, but all kinds of new information came after we had torn open the walls, and the city was asking us for extra things that we didn't account for. And we always account for a little bit of it. We leave some fluff in the budget for a little bit extra, but this was a lot extra. Like all the things that could be asked for got asked for, and all the things that could go wrong went wrong. So instead of $38,000, we're really at around $82,000 right now. So we overspent by around $44,000 in phase 1 and phase 2 because of the extra things we were asked to do. Now the issue is that in phase 3, 4, 5, and 6, or the checkpoints, we still have to put the house back together. And in fact, we have to put a lot more of the house back together. And now the budget, if everything stayed exactly like it was, our budget for the whole project would go from $71,000 to $115,000. That's not including any of the extra work. And there's only really a few options at that point. We can either A, bring the cash ourselves, B, we can borrow more money or bring on other partners, or C, we could just unload the house, sell the thing. But it's really never an option unless things are so bad to sell a house before it's livable. I'm basically stuck in the situation where I know that I'm just finishing this project to realize the loss that I had on it, to finally sell it off and see how much I actually lost, how much money of mine has to stay in the deal. But that is the nature of investing. Sometimes you win, most of the time you win, but sometimes you lose and you just have to lick your wounds and move forward. Last time we were here, I was getting through all of the inspections and such. And also what I noticed is that it was really messy in here and there were a lot of little scary things. There were floors open and such. And so I went ahead and hired somebody to come in and clean up all the mess in here. I mean, there's still some material here, but clean up the mess, fill in the floors, make it way less of a scary project, because I want to bring people in here to bid it. And so we're here right now to make the scope of work, and I'm trying to get the best price I can. And dirty houses get dirty bids. So the floors haven't been closed up here because this is some of the work that we need to do for the rough inspections. Truly, I'm surprised that this passed rough inspection. Maybe this is work that got undone later, but I mean, like, you know, those receptacles need to go through the bottom plate. You know, these wires here need to go through the bottom plate and they need to be tied up correctly. It's nice that they were able to do this without tearing out this. I mean, this is like a really good job. Usually when people come in and demo, I mean, you got to be careful about the demo, but I mean, they came in and they cut right here to make sure that they didn't break through some of this tile, so that way I could actually reuse it if I want to. I'm not sure I want to. Definitely did a nice job here. And they just cut off the bottom one. You see on like a 4-inch tile like this, you can find 4-inch tiles and then we would just refinish it to be all the same color. So we might keep this or maybe not. I got to think about what we're going to do here. That smell is, that's an open sewer line right there. It's plugged up with a little bit of stuff, but you're basically smelling all the poo. All the poo. They also came in and insulated, so we'll have to call in an insulation inspection, which is the last inspection. But I imagine for our guys that we're gonna need to get some insulation there as well. I am actually gonna do a scope of work here. When we're building scopes of work, we're ultimately going to send this out to different contractors. For the rest of this project, phase 3 through 6, or the checkpoint 3 through 6, we would have what we call an all-arounder do all of this project. So there's, drywall and floors and paint, and there's getting cabinets ready to go. There's trim, there's some exterior work. That's where we use what we call the all-arounder, who can do a little bit of everything. Then we will have to have like mechanical, electrical, plumbing contractors come in to do the trim out work for the rough ends that are here. But for the most part, this is going to go to one contractor. And so we're going to build a scope of work for them. And the most important thing with a scope of work is that it is the expectations that you're setting for the contractor. So it's important for you to be clear. Communication can be really difficult. And so instead of just sending them a written scope of work, we do a written scope of work. We also do a video scope of work, and we actually send that to them. And then we make sure that their bid is based upon our scope of work, and also that we have confirmation that they understand it. And so right now I'm about to make the scope of work for this particular contractor. And I've said it plenty of times before, I don't do the conventional wisdom of send this to 3 different contractors. I'm sending it to one contractor who I suspect will give us a great price. We've worked with them a lot in the past. I know that this is a good project for that particular person, instead of sending it to 3 people knowing that I'm going to waste 2 people's times. So on the scope of work, I want to start with the outside. I'm not going to keep it in our checkpoints, since I know that I'm going to give him all of this. So it's basically, there's really only 2 more checkpoints. There's everything I give him, and then there's what the mechanical, electrical, plumbing needs to do to finish. And so that way I can group everything up into one, and then I only have one grouping of work to manage. And that's how I preserve my bandwidth. So we need to fix this mailbox. Then on the front of the house here, for now, I'm not going to put gutters. I suspect that I'll have to bring gutters in the inspection resolution when we go to sell this thing. But for now, I'm not going to do it. We need to finish out the soffit and fascia however is necessary. I think most of it is done. Underneath this foyer area, there needs to be a little bit more. Obviously, we're going to paint, but first we need to do something to make this front look a little bit better. So I'm thinking what we'll do is put like some nice rails in on the sides. I think that we'll finish this soffit. I think the best thing to do would be to have like a nice wood accented feature here. So I'd probably redo all of these posts and this soffit here to all be like a wood finished nice look. And then here, I have the problem that we're not really going to be able to piece this in. And so what I would do instead is build like just a wood feature that comes off of the wall just a little bit to cover this up and make it look like it's something nice and it ties in with everything else. So you would put in new rails on the side, and then the rest of the house is really going to be just like, most likely just white and maybe some black trim or a dark colored trim. And then that wood feature will really pop. So that's what we would want to do on the front. Let's go around to the back. We got to put some kind of like crawl space door here. I would replace this with like a new piece of plywood and paint with the rest. Whatever repairs we need to do, little repairs throughout. Okay, whatever repairs we need to do here. And I think that we really need this all plywood back here. Honestly, yeah, I would just paint the inside of this, like just white or whatever, color you're using, just spray the shit out of it. And that will be good to go. Any wood repairs that you need to do that. But otherwise, just paint the crap out of it. The back here, I'd probably like zip this off right here and then just do whatever siding you want over here. Yeah, I would just put whatever siding like kind of matches right here, and then, we'll paint the back. Obviously we're painting this here. We're gonna have to fill in with siding up there. And it's like once you get to the back of the house, like people aren't buying or not buying the house based on how this looks, but it needs to do the job of not letting water in. So it's got to be sided appropriately. All right, the deck, I would say that there's some pieces of wood that need replaced. The railing, I would just delete it because I don't think we need it. You only need the railing if it's 30 inches up or more. So yeah, I would delete this rail and then replace the deck boards that need replaced. And then let's just paint this thing a color that goes well with the with the rest of the house. Okay, and I think that is about it on the outside. All right, and then like clean up this crap, you know, clean up, you know, that like nasty looking fence, get all this crap out of here. So let's talk about landscaping on the front. All right, so I would like get some mulch into these little beds. You're gonna fill that up. I mean, there's already some landscaping here, so I just get mulch into these beds, make it look nice. Some mulch in here, make that look nice, and like really focus on this front area. The paint job, that little wood accent, and the front door. Maybe we would paint the front door like a different color to give it a look. I think you can be the decision maker on that once you see how it all comes together with the body and the trim. I'm thinking like a white and black look with that wood would be good. So see what you think about that front door. But I mean, I like the front door itself. I think it can be fixed up and looking nice. I would probably fix up some of this deck. Maybe we just paint this completely, or excuse me, the patio. You know, we don't want it to look sloppy like that. I'd probably just remove the storm door completely. So that way all you see is this main door that will actually be pretty. Okay, floors. I think that the floors are beyond making it worth repair. So we're just gonna do LVP throughout. The cabinets here, all right, so I think these cabinets are good, and let's save them and paint them, and let's do new handles throughout. I actually think that black would look good throughout this instead of stainless steel. And so let's do a black trim out throughout. So black doorknobs, black hinges, black pulls and hinges on these doors. We're gonna have to patch here, so we can have like the internal pulls, because I don't think this style looks very good. I mean, truly, unless you can, you know, find some pictures of something that makes that look good. All right, but anyway, I think we'll do granite tops here, or not granite, but quartz. So leave that to us. Tell me what you think about the cabinets. Obviously, you got all these drywall repairs. Try to minimize the amount of transitions you have in the floor. Drywall repairs, floors, paint. Man, I really think at this point it would be easier to just tear that out. Let's just tear that out, and let's do two, you know, tubs. You know, I'm talking about upstairs too, because we're gonna have to redo all that because we're gonna use black, and I'm not using this fucking chrome stuff. Yeah, just tear this out. Let's do, you know, subway tile or just large format tile, whatever's easiest for you there. You know, if you do the large format, run them vertically. Okay, we got to get new windows in. So for the exterior, make sure you're putting in windows and trimming them out. Put the floors back in here. Okay, upstairs, run the LVP in here. Same thing with downstairs, toilet, vanity, and we're gonna put in a new surround here. All right, one more thing here, backsplash, you know, subway tile. Let's do stainless, or I guess black. We could do black here, because we'll do black appliances as well.
So how's it look?
Well, there's more than I expected here, but I guess, you know, like what we talked about before, I expected this to be an extended budget. I'm gonna have to get back to the computer and put together the actual budget and redo the scope of work, but I suspect that it'll end up being even more than we had originally budgeted for. I don't really think there's any way to save here. You know, we already made the budget pretty tight, and actually it's kind of like I have an opposite feeling about it. Like, it's not the time to cheapen up, it's the time to get the most out of this house. And that means maybe spend a little bit more on the finishes and such, so I can sell to the top of the range of comps in this neighborhood and maybe salvage a little bit. But, you know, when it comes to how we're gonna fund this, like, there is no option. I have to get it to the end. And honestly, like, nobody's gonna lend on this. If they did, it'd be because they're doing a favor for me. Because even though the budget got screwed up, that doesn't mean that it's gonna sell for any more money. It doesn't mean the market has changed at all. And, you know, we already borrowed the amount of money that we needed to do this, plus a little bit. And so that means that if anybody was lending me even more money, they would be doing it against their rules. You know, they're only gonna lend to me 60 to 70% of the after repair value of the house. And we already borrowed that money. So if they gave me more, maybe they would, but it'd be as a favor to me. And that's definitely not a favor I want to ask for. You want to save those for times of need. And so the point is, what am I going to do to finish this project? I'm going to have to bring my own cash to the table to finish the project. Now, it wasn't always like that for me. There were times where I didn't have the cash and I ran into issues like this. And truly, that's how I ended up starting a construction company, because the bottom line is you got to do what you got to do to find the money to finish the project, because at the finished project is where you realize the gains that you had, where you realize the profits. And that's why earlier I said I'm not going to sell it before I get it to retail value. Otherwise, I'm leaving so much money on the table. And so, a decade ago, I ran into this same issue, and I looked at the tools and the resources I had. And obviously I had a team who was doing construction for me on flips that I was buying. And I thought, well, I better redirect here and find somebody who will pay us to do the work for them. And, that's really how my construction company was born, as out of need to find more cash. The reality is, when people look at investors, people who are out flipping houses, they think that all of them are rich. But the truth is, they're probably not. They probably will just find a way to find the cash to make deals work because they want something more for themselves. And that's what a lot of those guys are out there doing. And that's what we're going to have to do right now. The question you always want to ask yourself when these issues arise is, what should I have done differently? And it's really easy to play Monday morning quarterback and look back and say, well, gosh, I should have gotten more inspections done on this one, or I should have maybe budgeted more for this, that, or the other thing, or heck, maybe I should have gotten a city inspection done before I even bought the house to see if there was any issues that they'd want me to deal with. But that's not really reasonable, and that's not how things work in reality, because in reality, as an investor, you're going to look at 10, 20 properties before you decide to buy one. And so are you really going to get people to come out to every one of those? And so you do have to make judgments based on what you can see and what is reasonable. And so when we make these budgets, we try to account for some things going wrong, but just statistically speaking, on certain projects, nothing's going to go wrong. And on other ones, all of the things are going to go wrong. And so the main thing to learn from, the main thing that I wish I could go back 10 years and tell myself, is you have to put money aside for the problems that are going to arise. You have to have a financial contingency that is 20% of the construction project or more, especially on these old houses. And that's really why we have the ability right now to pay our way out of this problem. And I wish I would have had that financial contingency a decade ago, and maybe I would have never had a construction company. But at the end of the day, it's a double-edged sword. I need to be smarter about my investments. I need to take more time and make sure that I have a financial contingency. But on the other hand, I need to just act. I need to go out there and start investing, because these mistakes are what make you learn and what make you ultimately have the skills to not make them down the road or be able to handle them better down the road. And so there's a certain balance that you have to play, and it's different for everybody. Different people have different risk tolerances, have different cash flow from maybe their job or another business. So you have to make that decision for yourself. But I definitely recommend that you have somewhat of a safety net for yourself before you go buying older houses where these surprises are going to come up.